Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And the topic for this podcast is rewriting Genesis. Now, regardless of your feelings or point of view towards religion or the story of Genesis, you may find value in this story. And I want to talk about how I came to speak about this topic. So, Genesis is a birthing story. And the story of birthing, what happens around birthing, and stories of creation are also associated with like the sun and the moon. Before the water, the cosmic waters before creations, then the sun and the moon, and the rest of the planets and life on earth and so on and so forth, the feminine, masculine, or whatever you want to call it. I think it was much more intricate than what we know it as pop culture. But these stories have imprints within our souls, even when people are not at all religious. The relational patterns that are involved with creation, the birthing itself, the stories around birthing, what we've been taught to believe that birthing should look like, whether by conception, okay, so sex, but also not only sex, when we talk about technology today, a relation, okay, what is the relation between the parents, what child is some cultures and religions have stories about which children are okay and which children are not okay, and all of these really affect both the relational patterns, our upbringings, and our birthing stories and our parenting stories. I speak as a person who is a child, not as a person who is a parent to babies. So this is my point of reference. Another thing that got me to talk about the story of Genesis was a recent discussion about postpartum and postpartum depression, or people call it postpartum psychosis. But I am not here to give you a bad news. I was actually very touched by Adam Ellenpass, I give reverence, for mentioning the anxiety around astrology, which I think is prevalent also about psychology. When you are understanding certain factors and their contribution and their impact upon the life of a person, there is fear, even when you know the point of interferences. And to quote him, he said, I am connected to the planets, I sing mantras all the time, is informed with astrological magic, and still his daughter got a fever around the eclipse and he was terrified. Okay, so not to have her taken away. And so if you make the analogy for psychology, so I don't know, a child is born, the father or the mother dies, and you're afraid for the life of the child, what would it mean, and so on and so forth. There was a lot of such anxiety around, let's say, children of same-sex parents, children of single parents, and whatnot. But I want to give you a little bit of the good stories that I have heard and I have run into, whether it's in my training as holistic health practitioner, intending to fertility myself, intending to the post-Pfizer vaccine. Yes, I know I was stupid, but there was a baby next to me, and I said, okay, I make so much experiments with my body as holistic health practitioner. I went and did that. I do not prescribe this to anyone. Fortunately, I'm alive currently, but but this is a part of the truth, and I want to give you some of the stories that I did here that are benefic. So first of all, if we talk about the postpartum psychosis, I want to talk about the story that I heard from a person who spoke about this openly, and he is one of the people who brought open dialogue to Israel, which is horrifically malpracticed here because we don't have housing first and we don't have enough food and nourishment. And so people who think that open dialogue doesn't work is not true. You have to look at how it was practiced in Finland, and you have to practice it with housing first and many other things. And I think it was actually created also in Netherlands. I'm not sure. Like, yes, Netherlands has housing problems. So you can't blame it for not working in Netherlands. You have to tend to housing. But this person had a spouse, and both he was dealing with what people call psychosis, okay? And in open dialogue approach, you know that there's a lot of validation of what the person is experiencing, and some people have sensitivities to frequencies that others don't. This I've seen in my life. And another point is that if there is trauma and a person cannot speak about it, they will find the words to speak about it, or they will have intrusive thoughts, and so on and so forth. When his spouse was having the birth, okay? So this was the first time I heard about this. I heard about orgasmic birth and doulas and that, but she was basically going through a process of intentionally getting into what people call psychosis. Like a psychedelic experience. She was intentionally having kind of like psychosis is the English word for this, while birthing. If you think about the chaos, and out of the chaos a baby is born. So this birthing story kind of stayed with me, and the ability to birth in this way kind of stayed with me. You can understand that having the mutual support, both physically, okay, and emotionally and psychologically, was assisting in this birthing story, having the ability to retreat after birth, okay? If we cannot talk about postpartum depression or psychosis without talking about whether people can retreat after birthing, and I don't mean for a day or two. I mean, my mother did this. She went into hospital, gave birth to me, and got out of hospital. but this was volitional. She just didn't. It was not about the hospital. She just doesn't like hospitals. So, so this is my birthing story. But also for many people, there's a desire to and the need to rest after such experience, go through this type of healing psychosis. Okay, it's a birthing psychosis. It's closer to what people call a shamanistic journey, and this is a part of the story of creation. It's a part of it. So psychosis in this sense, in this context, is understood by my story. It's not this thing that we want to abort. We can abort the baby as well, and the birthing and this life trajectory of the person. And so, note to self, but is actually a part of the birthing experience, a part of being in that chaos of creation and allowing creation to be, well, allowing you to come through you, okay? If it's a baby, so baby to come through you. And this is one of these stories of creation that is embracing life and embracing that which is considered crazy, and birthing a baby to two parents that have the ability to physically raise this child, and the spiritual and psychological gnosis even to tend to the child. Okay, So this is one birthing story that I was impressed by, and I want to talk about another birthing story, and this is of a fellow astrologer who's been very vocal about the recent case of Daniel Akoya, the astrologer who basically committed a crime and killed herself following what is likely to be postpartum depression. I don't know if she was prescribed antipsychotics or not, because if she was, this could be the reason. Okay, unfortunately, it's not because there are no good treatments. It's because it's not marketed, and I address it in another episode. But I want to talk about her own the birthing story, not of the woman who died of postpartum, but the woman who's very much alive, to raise awareness about these topics. And this birthing story was actually her telling us that, and she speaks about this openly as well. She has a whole series about birthings and children and so on. And this is the combination of the medical facilities and the ability to, let's say, have cesarean procedure if needed be, and the engulfment of a doula and the ability to have the joy of both worlds. Like, this can be a water birth, but if you need assistance, then you will be able to enjoy also what the medical facilities have to offer. And this is a medical facility that actually works for your sovereignty, okay, to enrich your sovereignty, not to take away. And this is very important both in shamanistic healing and in conventional medicine, is the issue of sovereignty and to enhance the person's sovereignty rather than to take this away. It doesn't mean that we don't have interdependence. It is healthy to have interdependence, and it's very intricate, of course, but we need to keep that in mind, that those things, and healing the sovereignty of a person, of tending to their own sovereignty and expressing their sovereignty is a key to interdependence, and having interdependence is also key to sovereignty. And this is where we already go from birthing to relation. And I will tell another story, but this time not from the life, the physical life, but from the life beyond. And those who know me know that my primary email is madetolovemagic1@gmail.com. Is also my PayPal. You can give me money if you like. If you give me enough money, I may have money to have accountant and do some Saturn work that's needed with me. But the song Made to Love Magic and the album Made to Love Magic by Nick Drake was big inspiration. Not all the lyrics of the song are majestic, but it's very funny that I was made to love magic, and I do astrological magic today. Learn about this. I listened to a channeling of Nick Drake a couple of years ago, and in this channeling he came and said a couple of things. First of all, if you're wanting to play his music or to make renditions, then he's very accepting. He wouldn't think you're butchering the song. Also, it's available. He wants people to communicate not only with deities and with angels. There are people who passed away and can give you a lot of insight. I am witness to this myself. Other types of knowledge. And even his muscle memory is available for you if you want to try and play guitar and learn how to play, so you can channel him. And his muscle memory is available for you to continue on and create. Another thing he talked about is the importance of birthing. He died of suicide as a result of depression, and his mother was also depressed during the time of his conception, but pregnancy and birthing. This, of course, had affected his life tremendously. This is not the bad news. Yes, it's not about breaking you the bad news. The good news is that he tells that there are ways, wave-based and frequency-based ways, when you cross over, to heal birthing experiences. So, um, and having a positive birthing experience can have tremendous impact on the life of the person. Um, and this is where I have to mention I had this actually was attempted to by a healer that I know. And when it comes to birthing, we have to understand that yes, there are people who are in certain ways traumatized, and it's okay. And this causes various actions. Birthing and birthing control is also a population control. And this is where people that have had bad experiences with those things and did not receive in this life appropriate experiences to birthing, to relation, then it clogs the consciousness. So from thinking that humanity is terrible and we must all die, to thinking that it's a good idea to control the population by controlling the birthing experience, or is somehow religiously okay to put punishment upon anyone regarding birthing experience. Okay, it's not about gender even. And I want to go back to the story of Genesis and to rewriting Genesis as a very moderate and a very rational experience, whether you are religious or not, to tend to the Genesis rather than genocide. Yes, it's true. Genesis story, simply because it affects the lives of people. And I have to give reverence to an astrological magician who coined the term astrological magician, by the way. This is Caitlin Kobok. And with the election of her spouse, Austin, she created the chart of the Thema Mundi, which is basically kind of the birthing chart of the universe. And for various times, and she had a lot of like psychic attacks on her and whatnot, everything coming up. I was just observing. I was like, why is she being so attacked? We didn't know about the Thema Mundi. And I was like, of course, she tends to fertility because it's a fertility talisman, but also birthing and creation work. I do recommend you to know a little bit about astrological magic before you tend to this. And I say this not as a marketing thing. I'm open to dividends, but it's not the point. The point is, when you receive this, you have the creation story. And basically, Caitlin wrote a creation story for the work that she did. It was a part of the ritual of comprising all the planets in the chart and the chart of the Thema Mundi. It took almost more than a decade in planning and a decade and half a decade in comprising and testing. And so the power of the birthing talisman, when I think about this, a part of the power, a side of the rituals, a side of the thing, the power of a story that we know is very healing, was rewriting Genesis. Okay? And this is not just that you take this story or that story, but the power of rewriting the story of Genesis, rewriting fertility, the way it applies to you. Because everybody will have their own thing, okay? And their own version. We're supposed to have this. We are different. We're supposed to have this. And so rewriting the story of creation was talisman so potent that it assists in creation, in fertility. And this is why it is just so, a part of why it's just so potent, the side of all the rituals, is basically rewriting Genesis. So if you think that this is a radical thing, that you shouldn't do it, that it is, that, you must understand, however holy scriptures are, the the job of writing things down was done by physical incarnation of a human being, and it was relevant for the times in which it was written. Okay, back when Abraham was putting Yitzchak on the shrine to be sacrificed, and Abrahamic God says, "Stop, don't do this." And then Abraham said, "I must cut something." Well, I don't know, like, I don't know, something, my body, why would you do that? My penis, don't. A part of my penis, okay, but don't. And so what should I sacrifice you? I don't know. But an animal or something, yes, but eat from the sacrifice. Don't kill for nothing, okay? So this was a revelation. This was something that, child sacrifice was practiced prior to Abrahamic religions. Unfortunately, also after, yes, 7th of October, Maui, Ukraine, and whatnot. I went to the airport and I saw Israel, the land of creation. It was actually very beautiful. It's important to us to understand the story of creation and birthing life and understanding what do we put into it. And this has tremendous power over our life experiences, and it streams out, kind of purges out all those stories of creations that have been affected. Even you could go as a completely atheistic person, complete heretic, and lo and behold, there's some ideas that you have, whether around sexuality, around relation, even not ideas, even not some experiences that are not even related to you. And this is where the power of rewriting Genesis, and I give you this as something to do, that you can absolutely do this right now and say, what if I had to rewrite Genesis, rewrite the story of creation? What would I write there? What would I put as the story of creation, the story of birthing? What would I put in this situation? And this is not only of babies, but also of life and of creative endeavors, and so on and so forth. So, to patterns of relations. Okay, patterns of relations that, of course, are affected by this. We understand that the story of creation can assist in those things, and the sovereignty of a person over their fertility is there. Okay, so we are sovereign, we are powerful, and we have our stories and the tools that of the trade. What assists you to put this to practice is individual, and you comprise it also as well. So I think that those type of birthing stories is not to erase bad experiences, but rather to give you a point of reference and a point of interference. We have the knowledge that a birthing psychosis or a shamanistic journey into birthing is a part of orgasmic birthing. We have the understanding that we need to rest, especially after such a thing, so rest is needed. We have the understanding this should be materially supported, physically supported. Yes, we have the understanding that willing consent plays an important part in conception. Is important, yes. Willing consent of all people. It's not just about a vagina person, but also the person who, whether they want to become parent or not, and the readiness. I don't have all the answers to how to tackle these things. I don't have all the answers to this, but it's important to tend to that and understand that these birthing stories are powerful, and after the birthing, the raising of children, the support that has to be there, There's not a this child is okay, this child is not okay, this child is, we give them support, and this child we kill, and so on and so forth. Um, those things are, yes, they stay within the psyche of people and are part of ancient methods for population control that had nothing to do with the creation or with divinity, or with Genesis. So, um, and when I mean that, by that I mean not about the sovereignty of a person of whether to give birth. I mean after, yes, birth. Um, yes, those religions that say, oh, this baby was not born from two people that married each other, so this is mamzer, and we need to kill the baby. Yes, maybe it was relevant at certain times for certain contexts, but you have the sovereignty to write your own genesis and your own birthing story. This knowledge and this power is relevant in these days to remind ourselves um, of those things, and to keep this in mind as well. So nobody has any right to take the sovereignty from a person upon their birthing, creation, and, um, and creating healthier relational patterns. Okay, this includes the necessary resources, the resources to support healthy nervous system, healthy decision making, sovereignty, and so on and so forth. So I hope this gives you a little bit of a breath of fresh air with all these stories that we hear about fertility, about the agency, about the experiences of giving birth, about the experiences after giving birth, the experience of raising children, um, and all the storms around. Yes, so this is a tool that can be useful, and I hope the stories that I brought are useful. And again, this is not to make you feel bad that this was not your experiences, but to understand that you are as entitled to have positive birthing experiences and parenting experiences as anyone, and no one has the right to take these resources from you. So thank you for listening.